Frank Lampard has not received enough credit. When he was appointed, the club, supporters, and majority of first-team players were fed up with Maurizio Sarri. In my opinion, Sarri didn't really do anything to deserve this level of contempt. I understand that the type of football Chelsea played under Sarri was boring when compared to the high tempo Conte installed during his successful reign. The decision to hire Sarri was made by the club's board, and they should have anticipated that the season was going to unfold this way. Ahead of Sarri's first and only season as Chelsea boss, his notable signings were Kepa for £72 million and Jorginho for £51 million. They also secured Kovacic on a season-long loan with an option to buy. They sold Fabregas to Monaco, who was the creative heartbeat of that Blues team during Conte's tenure. That left Sarri with two options for the cam: Ross Barkley, who was recovering from a long-term injury, and Ruben Loftus-Cheek, who was back from his largely uneventful season-long loan at Crystal Palace. The Chelsea strikers comprised of Morata and Giroud. Honestly, neither of them are going to deliver 20 league goals a season. In the January window, Sarri did secure the loan services of a striker who could do so, in Gonzalo Higuain. The Argentinian was given the starting berth as Alvaro Morata departed on an 18-month loan to Atletico Madrid. Higuain hit the ground running, scoring twice on his home debut. I think Sarri did the best he could. And in his only season in London, he did deliver silverware in the form of the Europa League. Come the end of the season, the club announced Lampard will replace Sarri. Lampard could not have been hit with any more handicaps. For starters, there were several first-team players that were not going to be part of the fold. Their talisman for so many years, Eden Hazard, was on his way to Real Madrid. This was a player who had just topped them for goals in the league. In that very same season, he recorded the most number of assists in the English Premier League with 14. The Blues were also going to be without N'Golo Kante, who was nursing an injury. Halfway through the season, Kante had only started 10 of a possible 19 fixtures, as well as making 2 substitute appearances. He had less than 1,000 Premier League minutes to his name at the midpoint. If playing without Hazard and Kante wasn't enough, David Luiz and Gary Cahill called time on their Chelsea careers and had left to Arsenal and Crystal Palace respectively. Bakayoko, Moses and Drinkwater all opted for loan spells and weren't really in the Chelsea setup to begin with. Furthermore, the club was slapped with a 2-window transfer ban, so they couldn't sign any new players during this period. Chelsea activated a clause in Kovacic's contract where they could sign him, and since he wasn't a new player, FIFA allowed them to. It was also around this time that Bayern Munich were relentless in their pursuit of Callum Hudson-Odoi. I'm sure Lampard was part of his decision to stay. Despite these difficulties, not only did Lampard reinvent the team, but he also equaled and in some instances bettered Sarri's results using Chelsea's young players. I, for one, haven't heard of any Chelsea Academy players given a genuine opportunity in the first team in the last decade or so. He is the first manager to vouch for youngsters and give them starting places, and not just odd cameo appearances. Without a shadow of a doubt, players like Mason Mount, Tammy Abraham, Reece James, and Fikayo Tomori would not have received that sort of game time had it been any other Chelsea manager. and all academy products. For that, take a bow, Frank Lampard. There were 3 players who didn't get significantly more minutes. Those supposedly unlucky ones were Hudson-Odoi, Loftus-Cheek, and Billy Gilmore. Hudson-Odoi had a few different injury spats, which ruled him out for 11 league games in total throughout the season. Out of the remaining 27 fixtures, he appeared in 25 of them. Could have hardly asked for a better return. Loftus-Cheek was another injury-hit player. However, he actually started for Chelsea at the earliest available opportunity post-recovery. It just happened to be when the season restarted from lockdown on matchday 30. He would go on to make an appearance in 7 of the available 8 games following that. I put his and Hudson-Odoi's lack of minutes down to match fitness and not a lack of opportunity. Billy Gilmore was 18 and made 6 appearances for Chelsea in the 2019-20 season. I'm inclined to say he may have played more under Lampard in the 2020-21 season, seeing as they didn't sign anyone for his position. However, it is speculative. Gilmore sustained a long-term knee injury which ruled him out for a few months, and Lampard was sacked at the end of January 2021, so we don't know if he was actually going to hold on a starting berth for the remainder of the season, had he been fit and Lampard still been the coach, of course. Ahead of the 2020-21 season, Chelsea made several high-profile signings. Hakim Ziyech, Timo Werner, Ben Chilwell, Kai Havertz, and Eduardo Mendy signed for just under £250 million. Malang Sarr and Thiago Silva also joined the club. However, these were on free transfers. My hunch is that Lampard wanted some of these players, but not all of them. I think the club went ahead and signed them regardless, which was the start of his demise. Thomas Tuchel was appointed a day after the club dismissed Lampard, with the club sitting on 9th place. Tuchel will become the first Chelsea manager to go undefeated in his first 13 matches in charge in all competitions, surpassing Luis Felipe Scolari's 12-match unbeaten record. Tuchel's streak was ended by a relegation-threatened West Brom that smashed Chelsea 5-2 at Stamford Bridge. Following that loss, Chelsea sat 5th on the log. They would win 3 and lose 2 of their final 5 Premier League fixtures, beating Man City and Leicester in this period, and securing 4th spot come the end of the season. Under Tuchel, the Chelsea defensive unit was outrageous. In 31 league appearances, Mendy kept 16 clean sheets. The backline and defensive midfielders were too fluid, too slick. The defense played a much higher line, which squeezed up precious yards. I'm convinced Thiago Silva has had a hand and a foot to play in this, and has reduced the adjustment period to Tuchel's defensive tactics. Personally, it was unbelievable to see how effective Chelsea were in the press. The players have adapted well to it, and it is with the system that you get the best out of Kante, Kovacic, and Jorginho. I think Tuchel will continue with this going into the 2021-22 campaign. I do feel like Chelsea are going to experience some problems up front. They have not confirmed the signing of Romelu Lukaku as yet. However, he is heavily linked to the club. I think we may see more of a Chelsea counter-attack this season. Jorginho certainly has the ability for that sort of passing range, and they do have pacey attackers to get in behind. Mason Mount knows what to do with it up front. It's a big season for him, and he faces tough competition for the England World Cup squad. I think Chelsea will finish first this season. The stability of this Chelsea team under Tuchel will carry them throughout, and I think they will match City week in, week out. They have 9 regular starters, and more importantly, the consistency that comes with that. Man City lineups are a bit sporadic, and I think this is where Chelsea has a competitive edge, which is why I think they'll lift the trophy come the end of the season. They also have players who are in their prime and show no signs of slowing down. They finished third under Sarri and fourth under Lampard, who are actually level on points with third place Man United. That very season, they lost Eden Hazard and weren't able to replace him due to the transfer ban, yet they outscored themselves by 6 goals. You then replace Lampard mid-season and go on to win the Champions League at the end of it, and now the Premier League. Only sounds like one man's doing, Roman Abramovich. Until we meet again.